Welcome back to Podcast for the Recently Released. I'm your host, Lois Stardust.
And I'm your co-host, Joe Matissa.
Y'all like that new intro that we got? That super cool song that we found? Boom. They hear it on the audio thing too, right? Yeah, you hear it if you're not on YouTube. But if you watch it on YouTube, there's like some cool visuals. So pop on over there. We're Podcast for the Recently Released on there.
Yeah, so we got an intro. Well, we had an intro, but this intro is like a little bit more jazzed up, and we got a more jazzed up layout around us. I don't know if you could see that, but it's pretty cool. We're going to be updating it a little bit at a time. But today is the 60th episode. Not that that's like an important number or anything, but maybe that's why we're going a little bit more extra in the episodes than ever before.
Yeah, I think we're just trying to not suck.
Well, that was probably the most like enthusiastic way to say that we don't suck. I don't know. That wasn't convincing at all. If I was listening to that, I'd be like, well, that sounds like they suck.
No, I don't know. It's not like we're like the number one podcast. Like we're not like a Joe Rogan. You know, it's not like everybody listens. It's not like we have lots of money. It's not like we're Tom Segura with that McDonald's sponsorship, you know?
Joe Rogan's been famous and doing radio shows for like
I'm just being dramatic. I'm just
plus.
being dramatic. I don't care about anything. I'm just saying that we're just a couple of weebs with a podcast studio and we just like to make things, and we're happy that people obviously listen to some degree, so that's really fucking cool. My point is, though, is that we don't have, like, a big production team. We don't have, like, tons of money coming in from this or anything, so it's just, like, purely something that we love to do and we're passionate about, and we're making it real cool.
Yeah, we do that. We make it cool. I'm going to zoom out on myself a little bit.
And not for nothing, that Joe Rogan dude, his thing looks like a toaster. Why?
It does look a little bit like an oven or like a, I don't know, like a fiery colon of some sort.
It looks like a convection oven. Like he looks like he's inside a toaster or something, and I don't know why. You got all that money, you're in a toaster.
That's because people that are in there are getting roasted.
That makes sense.
They just tell
all
jokes.
Right. I'm over him. Let's talk about something else.
Well, I'll do the little intro for today. Today is episode 60. We're going to be getting into WandaVision again. We're going to be getting into the premiere of Superman and Lois. We're going to go into a movie as well called Shadow in the Cloud. So I'm very excited about this for today.
Can we talk about Superman and Lois right now?
You want to do that one first?
Yes.
All right. So we'll skip right to that. Good thing I'm in control here. Bam, we'll put up the Superman and Lois thing for everybody. So boom, you see that? Boom.
I loved this so much. Okay. Bring it back a little bit. I really don't give a shit about Superman. That's Joe's thing. He really wants to, he wanted me to watch Smallville for a while because that's like his favorite show of all time. He's like super into it. I wish I could edit this so I could put up a picture of him meeting Tom Welling, but maybe I'll put it on our Instagram. We're proud for the recently released on there. It's the best picture I've ever seen. It's the happiest I've ever seen Joe in my entire life. Like, he does not look that happy in a picture with me.
Wait a second.
What?
I met Weird Al.
No.
Like, there was happier times in my life, too.
You were way happier meeting Tom. You were like a little fucking schoolgirl. You were smiling so hard, and you don't look like that in any pictures with me. I'm so offended that I'm not Tom Welling. The point is that Joe really likes Superman, and so he also had, like, was it just Lois and Clark?
What do you mean?
The older
Oh,
show?
my God. The Adventures of Lois and Clark with Dean Cain?
Yeah.
I love it.
I like those
Dean
a lot.
Cain was great. I would love to see him at a convention as well and get him to sign something for me.
I don't
That
think
would be
he
really
does
fantastic.
anything. That's not my point. My point was I liked that series a little bit more than I liked Smallville because it just felt like it was like, I don't know, more Superman-esque. I guess Smallville's fine, whatever. This is like really fucking cool though. This new show is on the CW, right?
Yeah. Well, it's CW, and I don't know if you could watch it through HBO Max or not. Let me know, anybody who watches through HBO Max, if it's on there. But we did it through iTunes because I don't watch the CW and all those apps. After Smallville, I mean, was there really a reason to tune back in? I mean, but now, yeah. What do you think? Oh, well, either way, I'm just going to dive into it. This show is like a very highly produced show, first off. Everything is done to look in that like deep dramatic tone of the DC movies, but it's done in a series. And the pilot does like a 5-minute intro to kind of show you the basics about Superman for those who don't watch, and to familiarize yourself with where they're going to bring you to this point in the story, where basically like he landed on the cornfield, the whole deal, grows up, his dad passes away, he stays in Smallville for a little while, he moves to Metropolis, he gets the job at the Daily Planet, he meets Lois, they get married, he tells her he's Superman, they have kids, they have twins, and then obviously it fast forward to now, present day, where these kids are teenagers and they're living their life in Metropolis, and it's just like a family dynamic of them trying to kind of make sense of life with him as Superman. They don't know he's Superman except for Mom, obviously, but it's kind of that whole him trying to balance the family life with him being, basically like a god. And it's really awesome. They do a really good job introing that whole dynamic right off the bat. It doesn't feel like a wasted 5-minute intro of the same typical stuff you've always watched. They did a good job, I thought. What did you think? Did you like you see him in the classic suit and doing all that little quirky saving and stuff?
I liked the actor that plays him because he was in Teen Wolf. His name Tyler Hoechlin or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably saying that wrong, but
yes.
I really like his. Why? How's it said?
That is definitely wrong. Tyler Hoechlin, maybe. I think it is. I may be wrong as well. Correct me if I'm wrong on this pronunciation here.
It's spelled like Hoechlin.
Hoechlin?
Hoechlin. Well, how's it said?
His name's Tyler, right?
Yes.
So our buddy Ty.
No.
My dude Ty.
That is not the way to say that at all. Let's see.
What are you doing?
I want to see how they say his name. She didn't even say his name. Whatever, Rachel Ray. She was so busy talking about his tights.
You didn't even give her a chance to say his name. So.
Nothing. Doesn't even matter. I would have said it right away. Either way, we don't know his name. Fantastic actor. I really enjoy him as Superman. I saw when the CW did that big mashup of all the stupid shit that I didn't care about. He was in that too. No,
what, the Crisis on Infinite Earths?
Yeah.
With all the different ones. I started with Arrow
cool.
and the Flash and stuff, but I just never carried on to
we're not. We're talking about that specific thing. I don't care about all the shows. We're talking about that one specific thing.
Oh my God!
I know. My point is, I don't really care too much for I was really into Arrow. I agree, but I don't care for any of those shows. This feels like it could be independently done and doesn't have to either have a storyline that's specific to all the shit that happened before, and it makes it enjoyable for me in that way, and also because it is kind of dark in a way. I feel like it's not super dark, but it's pretty dark.
No, I mean, it just looks dark, and when things happen, it's
eerie.
way more serious. They put a lot more weight on the dramatic aspects of it. They give you a better feeling that there are bigger repercussions when something's happening in this show, the way they lay it out. He's not like a guy that you feel like at the same time could just solve everything, because as soon as it gets to the home dynamic, things are kind of jumbled pretty harshly, and he definitely seems like he's a little lost on that, and kind of hitting bad aspects to every time he tries something, it just gets thrown right back in his face. And so it seems almost depressing in a sense on what's going on in the home situation. So I agree. I think it does look a little kind of dark at first, but it's cool. They pull it together really good. It doesn't seem like depressing or sad or anything.
No,
it's wholesome.
I think it's it definitely has wholesome values and stuff. I think that there are probably going to be some darker subplots in this show, just based on one of his kids. They talk about his mental health a lot.
Yeah.
And in general, I feel like there might be some dark plots. I just think it's going to happen. But I think he makes a really good Clark Kent. I think he makes a great Superman. The suit looks good. They did a whole fucking circle around him in his suit when he was up in space. His booty be looking good. You know what I mean? They're doing everything right with the suit. I liked the whole here's Superman's story fast forwarded. They didn't do like a whole intro that was like super long. It was kind of like, here's how he became Superman. Here's him working as a reporter. Here's him meeting the love of his life. They got married. His dad died. Like, they showed all these like very nice moments, which is what I wish they did with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I wish they did like a little reel before putting in there, because we don't need the whole Uncle Ben story. I'm getting off the topic, but you know what I mean.
But they could have done something to show the significance of what Spider-Man felt his purpose was, and them trying to pull that kind of out of their ass with the Iron Man thing didn't give me the same feeling that I did with the Spider-Man origins of the past, for sure.
And I think that with Superman, because like he's a character that everybody knows. Same with Batman. You see like a Batman symbol somewhere, you're like, I know that's Batman. You know the origin of Batman just because of one instance. It's always the same no matter what the universe is or anything like that.
They usually always will give you something, though.
For sure. So, and Spider-Man, like I said, Uncle Ben's story is the whole thing. With this, it's like, you know Superman, you know where he comes from, you know his parents, you know the farm, you know all these things. So I like that they did like a brief beginning into the episode and got started. I felt like the episode was like, what, it was like an hour?
Yeah, about an hour.
It felt like long. I think it was cohesively well. There was like 2 points where I thought they were ending the episode, and I was like, no! I was so stressed out, thinking it was going to be on a cliffhanger, but they didn't. They just finished the story off well, and I think it was like a little misadventure in a full episode, and then it's almost like sitcom-y in a way. Like,
yeah, well,
yeah,
they kind of give you this whole layout of what's happening now in the modern day where they're in Metropolis.
Mm-hmm.
And you see in the previews, obviously, they're in Smallville, so you wonder what's going to happen. And basically what happens is, spoiler alert, the mother also dies. And it's very emotional, and you can see he's in a rut because he's having a really kind of bad thing go down as far as the dynamic at home, where there's some tension and a couple things that happen that really set things off balance, and then boom, mom's out of the picture, and he kind of really just, it hits him. They all go back to visit in Smallville, and that's where you get that reunion with Lana Lang, her husband, her child, the potential love interest of the one son, I believe, Jordan? The one son?
I believe.
The one who's a little bit more emotionally unstable. Like, he definitely has some things going on in the beginning of this episode that kind of show you the difference between the two brothers and the way that's going to affect how things play out in the further episodes. And basically when this happens, they're all at like the funeral and everything, and I guess they were at the little ceremony they had at the actual barn. And the kids kind of all go off together into the barn, and an accident happens, and basically the kids survive. They're okay, and they're a little freaked out, and they don't know why they're okay. A bunch of metal pipes fall down on them. The one brother tries to save the other one, but they manage to be all right. And that's when they go and start to dig into their father, and they find out the whole aspect of him being Superman. And boom, that's our intro to this show. The whole family's kind of in a rut, falling on some hard times. They have some death in the family. And then, bam, they find out one of the biggest things of their life. Their father is Superman, and it might be an effect on them as people as they're growing up, because things are getting weird for them physically as well, and they might be getting powers.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool way to do this series. I will say I hate the name Superman and Lois. I get that Lois and Clark was taken because it was like that OG show and stuff. I wish they just named it something else.
Like what? What would you guys
I don't know.
name it?
Be like Hanging with the Kents or something, you know? Keeping Up with the Kents.
Keeping Up with the Kents. That would have been actually a really funny kind of reality show
like
take
reality
on it.
sitcom something. I don't know, because
I would have hated it.
I just think it's so funny, and I just don't like the term that's like Superman and Lois, because there's this whole like thing with her dad, and he's like, you didn't marry Clark Kent, you married Superman, you can't change his blah blah blah. And I feel like it's just like,
oh, that's also another thing. If you're Eddie bit familiar with watching Smallville over the years and things like that, the one dynamic they push is the tension with the father. And this one is a little bit different, because at this point, he is kind of working with the government. With the father, they have a decent relationship, and actually a relationship where they both seem to be genuinely worried about what he's doing and how it's going to affect home life, and making sure that the kids are okay and that mom's okay and all that kind of stuff. And that's really cool. It's different. And when things go bad and he has to, when Sarge calls him up and he's got to roll out, that kind of dilemma does get addressed right away. Of where's he going? What's happening? Are the kids okay? Is Lois okay with this constant issue? How does she feel about them being so close and working on these things, kind of deal? It's very cool to see. And I like that when he comes in and rescues, there's a nuclear power plant that kind of has like a rupture, and he goes in and he literally does a really cool thing where he goes into the ocean and just breathes ice breath until he makes an iceberg and lifts it out of the water and puts it into the reactor area. And I thought that was pretty neat. It was a different kind of thing that I've seen, rather than him just picking stuff up and putting stuff down. He did something really cool with his power as well.
I love the sequence in the beginning where they show him like saving this little kid with a car, and then like hands him his hat, and the kid's like, I like your suit or whatever, and he's like, my mom made it for me, and then he flies away.
Yeah.
Hysterical.
Very, very wholesome. The aspects that they do of him and his dialogue are very true to the Superman kind of, lighthearted, truth, justice, and the American way kind of feel with him. I feel like as far as the first episode goes.
Yeah, I think the dialogue's good. I think it's really cute. Again, I'm not like really a Superman person. Like he's probably the most boring character to me. Like I have no interest in like anything. Sorry, but I really like this. Well, I think like Clark Kent looks cool as hell. That's a cool name. I'm gonna steal it, but I don't think he's like that interesting. Even his kid is like playing a game at one point, and he's like, Clark's like, hey, like, I see you're playing Superman. That's pretty cool. And he's like, I'm not playing as Superman. Superman's stupid. I'm playing as whatever. And like,
I did like that. Yeah, when he was playing as Raiden against him.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. I like that because of the way they do this, and because of how they do the family dynamic, and how serious some of the things are that he's facing outside of that as Superman. It gives you the opportunity to just dive into the constant moral dilemmas in his life and where his values are on certain things. And I think that's what they're going to go into big time on this, especially with the family.
Did you say about Lex?
Oh, yeah. So I was going to get to that as well. We all know the CW verse, if you're familiar with that right now, what the current Lex Luthor is like, what he looks like, little shrimpy guy they had on. What the hell was he on? Was he on Big Bang Theory or one of those?
I have no idea what you're even talking about.
Well, either way, the guy they use for Lex Luthor in the CW verse is a little different than what I'm used to as far as for Lex Luthor in Smallville and stuff like that. And this one, they don't introduce a Lex Luthor from the CW verse because you already, I guess, know that one. They go and they show you a guy who came from another dimension that I guess when the Crisis of Infinite Earths thing happened, maybe somebody stayed in that dimension or on this Earth, and it was a Lex Luthor from another Earth where he's already been through a lot with Superman. Superman's kind of almost like either an enemy, or Luthor is an enemy of him to the point where he's kind of wants to, do or die kind of deal with his battle with Superman. So when he's there on this Earth and he finds out that Superman is there, he's on all, he's firing everything he can at him, basically. He comes in a full attack, stalking him, figuring out about him on this Earth, and then going for it, trying to take him down and introducing himself, being like, look, I know a lot about you. We've been through the ropes. I ain't dealing with this. I came to this Earth and you're here too. This is ridiculous. So they're fighting, and he's like in this Spartan from Halo / Doom kind of outfit. I mean, it's cool, but it doesn't have like the cool purple and green glowy stuff that the Luthor armor had that like makes you feel like it's Luthor. So at the end when they show you it's him, and it's different too because he looks a little different. He's still bald and everything, but he's a black guy, and he's a lot taller than the CW Luthor they got now. So right away you're like, that's not the CW guy when he's towering tall. This is a big guy, and when he grabs Superman with his suit on, you could still tell how much different he is in height. So I think this will be cool to see what the story was on him on his Earth, and it really goes out pretty hard on that episode with him and their little battle. What do you think as far as that character? Do you like this Lex Luthor?
I mean, we don't know anything. All we saw was him stabbing him once with some
kryptonite shard,
in
man.
space, and then he
Right,
disappeared, and they showed him walking like he was from Halo. Like, I don't know. There's nothing for me to make off of this character at all.
All right,
Yeah.
well, because for some people this is big, because right away you're getting roped into the multiple Earths and story arcs from other Earths, and you're following in the footsteps of some of these other shows that go into that.
I don't care about Superman. So for me, I'm just like, okay, cool, whatever. That's why I like this, because you're so passionate about the subject, and me, I have no idea, and I'm like, okay, I'll watch it. If I like it, I like it. But I'm more interested in like the kids and like him himself. I don't know how I feel about Lois yet. I don't know how I feel about Lana. I don't know how I feel about Superman in general. But yeah, I would say that I really love this episode. I'm intrigued to watch the show more. Superman is not my normal thing. And that's all I got to add.
Awesome. Well, I really liked it so far, and it was a real breath of fresh air compared to the CW I've been used to for years now. So I'm going to be following through with this 100%, and I'm going to watch a lot, and we're going to talk about it all the time. And we should have another episode on Tuesday. We record these a little bit early, so we won't be recording technically after the second episode is aired. I think it's every Tuesday, and these come out on Wednesday. But keep an eye out. We're going to go right into it again next week, and we'll talk about it, just like we have been with WandaVision, sorry. And we're going to get into that next, actually. But so far, this pilot, awesome. If I could rate the pilot, I'd give it like a solid 8.5 out of 10. It was really fun, super enjoyable. And if they can keep this kind of pace for the season, I'm in. I don't know how they're going to do it. These are like 20-something episode seasons usually in the CW at 50 minutes apiece. So they got to be pulling out the big guns. This thing looks like it costs serious money. But all right, let's dive into the next show. And the next one is obviously WandaVision. We've been diving into this every week, and we're, I think, 1 episode away from the finale right now, right? It's 9 episodes? Or is it 10 episodes?
I think there's only 9 episodes.
What a weird number. Why 9 episodes, Disney? What is going on with that? Why not just an even 10? Like, what are you doing?
Or an 8. I hate the uneven.
Yeah, we're an 8. What is with the uneven numbers? Well, either way, WandaVision, this episode, we all saw in the last episode, the recap, Agatha Harkness or whatever, basically got Scarlet to go down into the basement, and that's when you find out that there's a lot more going on, and it's not just Wanda who has kind of some control in this hex and who's pulling some strings, and you find out that Agatha did a whole bunch of stuff, and basically now in this episode it brings you into Scarlet Witch being trapped down there because she's got a bunch of protection things. What are those things called? Do you know what those are called? The little things on the walls with the
runes.
I
was like, why? Because I'm a witch.
Yeah, because you're into all that witchy nonsense. And this one was good because it dives right into all the witch stuff too, and brings you into the old Salem story for her and how she got her power, and the whole like her being taken out of the group of witches for kind of overstepping her bounds and going into dark magic. And it basically turns into them going to burn her. And she's way too powerful at that point, and she plays around with them and drains them of their life, drains her mother. And while they're doing that, and the mother's using powers against her, you see that crown, that witch's crown, very much like the Scarlet Witch crown. So it kind of gives you an idea that they're all relative in this whole witch mythology thing. And it's pretty cool. And then she goes in and traps Wanda and basically is like, how did you do it? I want to know your secrets. What are you doing? This whole place, you got it all taken over. How in the hell did you do it? And then so they bring all the flashbacks and they bring her through her past and make her retrace her steps. And she tries to find out how in the hell you learned how to do this crazy hex. What did you think about that?
If I'm being honest, I fell asleep.
What? This is ridiculous.
Okay, so
I might as well just take over on this episode. This is podcast or Joe cast for the recently released here. This is ridiculous.
Let me just tell you a story of my life right now. My life is waking up at 7 a.m. and going to bed or into bed between 12 and 1, and then Joe wants me to stay up until like at least 2 to watch something. Well, my dog decides she wants to keep pooping next to my bed in the morning because she's an old lady and she can't control herself. And so I wake up really early and I can't stay up late. And so I fell asleep, and then there was one point where I woke up again and I was watching it, and Joe turned over to me and was looking to make sure I was awake, but like he always goes like aggressively to me like, "What are you sleeping, not watching the movie?" like whatever, as most men do to their girlfriends. And so I was like, "No, I'm totally awake," and I just saw you looking at me, so I opened my eyes really wide to make it look like I was watching TV, and then I fell asleep again.
That's it. This is ridiculous. When this stuff happens from now on, I'm going to do a routine check. And if she's asleep, I'm canceling her out of the episode and I'm taking over.
So I'll
just put a little cardboard cutout and I'll do
sorry.
her voice. I'll imitate her voice even. And I'll get tons of enthusiastic dialogue.
I saw all the beginning Agatha stuff where she did the witchcraft and they were talking to each other and she was trying to figure out like how she was able to control everything. Fell asleep. Woke up to it looked like some kind of battle sequence or something. I might be making that up. And then I fell asleep. But I have seen that there's a quote going around that looks so beautiful, and it says, "What is grief if not love preserving?" which everybody seems to love. I guess that's a very impactful thing. It seems like this episode was very emotional.
Well, that's one part I can say I didn't care about and didn't
but I
take from this episode.
But I probably would have loved that, correct?
Sure, but I can't remember a single time where that was brought into the dialogue. Not important.
It says, in a fit of grief, she manifested a house on the lot, and a new version of Vision, his extended hex, came across the entire town.
What the hell? I'm going to say all this stuff.
Oh, sorry, I'm reading it on Wikipedia.
What are you doing? This is the whole point of the podcast. We're supposed to be sitting here talking about the whole damn thing. All right, so I'm just going to start getting on to it before she goes too far into her little reading on Wikipedia.
Trying to catch up.
She's retracing her steps, and you get the whole intro of her as a child and her family and her using magic kind of without knowing it to stop a bomb that came into her house. And it shows you all the different placements of things that you saw in the hex throughout her life. You know, the I Love Lucy, the Dick Van Dyke Show, the random, I guess, references to the home and the way the home was laid out. You know, a lot of the items and stuff, all reflections of her past she kind of shows in the evolution of those parts of the hex in each episode. That, along with the fact that, they show the Pietro stuff with her and them kind of growing up, but then they also show the whole thing with her and Vision, and you never really get to see, like, what bond they created to kind of become a thing. In the Avengers movies, they don't really go into that. They show a little bit of that, and that was kind of cool.
Fucks, you know it. You look at him, you know it. That man bangs. Good for him.
Well, anyways, so that's not all I picked up from that flashback, and
I got it.
I'm sure that was it too. That he's a robot, and they erect and connect still, even that he's
not
even
a
because
robot.
He's a damn robot. He's an android. He's made out of metal.
Don't tell me that I think a robot's hot, because that's not true.
Yeah.
He's like a being. He's
and
got
your
his
worst
own
nightmare is
thoughts.
about to happen anyway, because spoiler alert, I'm going to just jump on it right now.
The mid-credits scene?
We get White Vision. And White Vision is the creation of Vision without his memories and consciousness of, I guess, what it was at that point beforehand. So, like, he's, strictly an agent of S.W.O.R.D. at that point. The Vision that they resurrect,
That's like his body without his consciousness, I guess.
Yeah. It's kind of like that. And
or his soul, since his soul's technically the stone.
Yeah, and they make their own version of like a, I guess, somewhat man-made Mind Stone that kind of, boom, reignites his consciousness, kind of, but a new one, and he's kind of reprogrammed a little bit. And we'll see what happens with that. But basically, after they retrace these steps, they show this bond, they show all this stuff, they cannot still figure out how she did it. And Agnes bugs out, and she goes into full witch mode, grabs the kids, and she's like, this is ridiculous. You must be the mythological thing of our nightmares. You must be the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, she
we
calls her
heard
a
you
chaos
didn't,
witch.
and you finally
Yeah.
hear Scarlet Witch being said for the first time. Like,
It
they
hasn't been
never,
said at all in the MCU at all. They've never called her that. She even does an interview where she talks about it, and she's like, I guess I'm just Wanda because they never call me Scarlet Witch, and they never say it. But they said she's a chaos witch.
Yeah, well, and they call her the Scarlet Witch
And
in
they-
this
yes.
episode. They go and they do it, and it's cool to show the whole point of her going to Westview, New Jersey, was basically to find this house, this deed that Vision had bought for them to build a house together, and that's when I guess she bugs out and then snaps and then creates everything.
Well, yeah, I guess I'm not for nothing. If you had died during a battle that we had trying to save the entire Earth, and I had to think about the fact that we were gonna build this life together, like a normie life on this beautiful plot of land, like I really can't blame her for kind of losing her shit. You know, I want to know what's gonna happen with these kids. That's what I'm most intrigued by. Obviously, the Vision stuff is very interesting, and like I'm so happy
Yes.
to see Wanda get the full recognition for being the bad bitch that she is. But I want to know what's gonna happen with these kids.
Yeah, and one thing that they do not show yet, and I think there is a bit more to this, is Agnes does say multiple times, she talks about her husband Ralph and makes jokes, but I honestly think that since the other witches might not exist, and she might have technically, I don't know if they introduced any more witches now that they showed her past where she gets rid of the other ones, but either those witches still exist and there's somebody else she's working with, or she's working for, obviously, like Mephisto or something like that. And if it goes any bit into that story, then it would have been a little bit of that Mephisto magic that helped create those children. You know what I mean? Or that helps keep those children alive, technically, and able to break out of the hex into reality. So there's a lot to it, and it can go multiple directions. You never know with Disney and with Marvel when they do these shows or movies what kind of reimagining they're going to do. But I'd like to see if the kids actually become a thing, or if she's just going to have to do one of those deals where she has to admit to herself that none of it's real, and she has to let it all basically die off in her head. But I don't know. It's hard to say.
My question for you is, like, there's one episode left. Do you think they're going to do anything else with this? Like, do you think this is just a limited run series? There's going to be one season once it ends. That's going to be it for Vision and, like, Scarlet Witch's story. Do you think there's room for another show with her or with any of the cast? Because they keep hinting at Doctor Strange and her. And they keep, I don't know, we're getting some new movies and we're getting more shows on Disney Plus. It's been like a while, you know what I mean, in the making. But I want to know if there's like room for anything with this, because I can't imagine they keep going with this whole Vision and her scenario.
Yes, they are going more into it, not in a sense with the series necessarily from what we know. They may feature people in the next series or two kind of crossing over, which is part of what they want to do at the end of this. There are a lot of hints that they are bringing Doctor Strange into it, like you said. And that is mostly because you have the multiverse of madness, which potentially is going to bring Nightmare into it. And if Nightmare is going into it, then that also plays into this WandaVision stuff. With potential with Mephisto and with Agnes and all this stuff. If they do that, it would make a lot of sense. It would be an easy jump. It would be an easy way to introduce, Doctor Strange 2. I think we're going to see, because they already previewed it in some little glimmers, you're going to see by the next episode or by Doctor Strange, you're going to see Scarlet Witch in the full official Scarlet Witch costume. And you're going to see kind of, I think, that book that Agnes has that was missing in the Doctor Strange movie, if anybody had noticed that, I think that's going to be him kind of popping up and being like, what, you think I didn't sit here and do my research and where my missing stuff in my museum of magic went to? Obviously, I'm not an idiot, and where have you been? That's what I would think would happen, and he would just pop up and be like, boom, here I am. You didn't think I followed up and called my boys over at the Sword and was like, hey, guys, what's going on? You see my buddy Wanda? Where's Vision at? What's happening, Captain? Like, I think that's going to happen, and he's going to pop up. It's going to be a big magic thing. Hopefully not, like I said, with just colored magic dust everywhere or whatever. basically where it looks like people sounded the confetti and the smoke bombs, and then that's going to intro us for Doctor Strange 2. Personally, that's what I think. I don't know. But we'll see. And they didn't show Monica Rambeau.
Yeah.
Rambeau was not in the episode at all, so I'm assuming when she comes back, they're going to break her out of her mind spell at some point in this fight, and she's going to fight as well, and you'll see the full spectrum with the, photon powers and all that kind of stuff. And that'll be great. Hopefully they don't do me dirty with the magic dust, and we will be tuning in and telling you all about next week's episode as soon as it airs.
You gotta stop saying magic dust because that just sounds like drugs.
Magic dust. So much magic dust.
No.
When they're out there chasing the dragon.
No, you could just literally say, like, colored magic.
Colored magic. Okay, so when they're out there with colored magic, doesn't sound good, does it?
No.
Not a fan.
Magic dust doesn't sound good either.
Magic dust sounds great. When they're sprinkling their fairy dust on the scene.
Drugs, Joseph.
What do you mean?
That's literally drugs.
No, it's not
Yes,
literally
it is.
drugs. Fairy dust has always been known as a thing. Magical fairy dust. They do it in Disney all the time, right?
I guess, yeah.
See? Bam. Everybody knows.
Whatever.
Fairy dust. Episode 9. That's what it's going to be called. WandaVision. Episode 9, Fairy Dust. That gives you the little spoiler for that. And on to our final, which is a movie this time. We went over 2 series, but now we're going to go into a movie we watched called Shadow in the Cloud. And this was actually kind of a wild trailer. I don't know if anybody had watched the trailer. The trailer itself had some ridiculous stuff in there, and we still went for it. And the movie was pretty interesting.
It's Chloe Grace Moretz, which I watch her in anything. I enjoy her.
What's her name?
Chloe Grace Moretz.
That's fancy.
Yeah, that's her name. But I'm gonna give this movie like a 6, right? I would tell you to watch this, but I wouldn't say to spend a lot of money on it. Like if it's on a streaming network,
Like we did.
a streaming network,
$20.
sure. Or if you go to Redbox and it's like $5, sure. The trailer for me, I'll watch anything that's got like a monster plot to it. I think that's always interesting. And it's basically about how Chloe Grace Moretz's character is it's like World War II or some shit.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah,
Yep. During World War II, and basically she's on a flight mission where she is sent on a trip, and she has a package of precious cargo.
Yes. So they're talking about how while she's on the plane, like they're fearful that they're going to run into the Japanese, and there's like a whole big thing of this plot point. But it looks like this like weird mystery at some points because she basically goes into this pit of the airplane and she hands her cargo over to one of the other crew members or I guess like the military guys on the plane, and it's like, just protect this because I can't fit it into this little pit that I'm going into. And you know what? It seemed like a really interesting movie when we started. It seemed like we wanted to know what was in the package, right? That was the most interesting thing. We wanted to know what was going on with this chick because it was very much like a woman's coming on the plane, a woman is a pilot. No, women don't do any of that. Like that was like very much.
Yeah, and they're older too, so it's like an older time. So as soon as she gets in there, they're like, "Hey, what's this dame here? She?"
Yeah.
I mean, not quite like that, but that's how I imagine it the whole time. It's
that's
really
literally
funny.
like almost how they talk, and they're super gross, and it's just whatever. So you get this point where it's just a bunch of like gross dudes who are misogynistic. Like that's just the plot, and you're like, okay, cool, like women could do whatever, I guess. Like that's what you think it's gonna be like. And then when you watch the trailer, obviously you see that there's some kind of creatures that are kind of about.
Okay, so to dive back for a second, when they intro you into this, they show you a little cool old school cartoon PSA that they would show the pilots, and basically they're calling it a gremlin. And the gremlin is basically like this little cartoon gremlin that runs and does a lot of hijinks, and when the soldiers aren't paying attention and doing their job properly, an imaginary gremlin comes out and destroys something or hurts them. And that's them basically saying in the cartoon PSA, don't mess up, don't be a gremlin. You know what I mean?
And
don't saying
blame
that
your shit on
that
something else.
you can't blame it on something else, it's your own fault. And it's funny because everything's all like very like 80s style when it's playing, although it's like the 40s technically, and there's like cool 80s music and everything's like real over dramatic. The lighting's real funny, and they do these cool like intro scenes for the characters where they show them with like this weird like neon glow on each side of them, and it's funky. The music's really cool, and it's just over the top, so you're already like ready for just silly stuff to go down. And basically there is some weird stuff that goes down, and they send her down into the lower turret to sit, and they don't really have any room for her, and she has someone watch her package, and she starts seeing things on the plane, and they all think she's crazy, and they, you know, sit there and shit talk her and all that stuff, and, you know, it's actually a gremlin, and it's like a legit giant bat demon thing. And it's pretty gnarly, and the thing fucking attacks her, and then she bugs out, and they're just thinking that she's like acting a fool and panicking down there. And then she actually sees one of the Japanese planes, and she goes and fires on it, and they thought the whole time she was overreacting, and it turns out there was a plane. And so they're kind of battling this whole time with not taking her seriously, not believing what's happening, and then kind of almost believing what's happening, or knowing that something's off one way or another. And there's kind of that back and forth for a little bit, you know? And it's really it gets really wacky from there on. Whoa, I'll let you kind of say a couple things on that.
No, I don't really have anything to say. I just think it's like the concept is like so interesting, right? Because it's like I like the concept of like a actual thing in time, right? Like the World War II, or we talked about the Abraham Lincoln movie earlier today. Like things that are set in real time but have like a supernatural element to it make it really exciting to me. So it's like, hell yeah, there's like these cool fucking monsters on these planes and stuff, and it's gonna be like a bit of a different story. And they look really cool. They look like cool little bats, and they're just real interesting looking. But it took a shift, man.
Yeah, it took a real shift.
So it's not super fantastic all the way through, like what was like an hour and a half movie.
Yeah,
right?
About that.
So like the first hour, they get you kind of hooked because you find out that like, you know, she's not really from wherever she was saying, her accent changes and she's an American. And they're like, well, are you like a spy? Are you trying to like deceive us? And they think that she's like a bad guy for a plot of the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they don't trust her at all.
Yeah, so I think that made it more intriguing because I was more intrigued, like, oh shit, what the hell is this lady doing? And like, what does she have in the bag? You know what I mean?
I thought, honestly, I was going super sci-fi, and I was like, there's a baby gremlin in that bag.
That's literally
because
what I was
there's literally air holes in the bottom of the bag. And I thought at first maybe it was an old school speaker, like that was like some kind of intercom thing or some kind of electronic she had to communicate with somebody, like a radio. No, I thought there was a gremlin in that bag.
Yeah, so she kept saying it was like this classified secret mission and stuff, and so I was like, this is a little baby gremlin, and that's why they're coming after her, because they're like, she's took our baby gremlin, and, you know, they're gonna use it for science or something, and they're gonna fucking kill us. No, they go into the bag at some point, and this is like, I would say the last, like, 30 minutes of the movie is when it gets, like, super just bizarre.
Yeah.
There's a baby in it. There's a real human baby in it, spoiler alert. And so that shifts the whole concept of the movie.
Yeah.
Because now, for the last, like, 30 minutes of the movie, this baby that's in this bag with a seatbelt in it is just flying around.
Yeah.
And you know that shaking baby syndrome they talk about when, like, people, like, violently shake their babies and something
happens? Yeah, that thing is totally blended.
Yeah, like literally, scrambled. Like, and I'm totally for movies that are, like bending the rules, because there's parts where, like, she's outside of the airplane and she's trying to climb over, or she's just hanging out with all that wind. And I'm like, bitch, first off, if you were that high, you probably couldn't breathe. Second off, if you were to jump out of a plane, like, at that distance.
They weren't very high. They were fairly low to the trees. They were
not that part, but, like, earlier in the movie, there was a part where there was a hole in the glass and air was coming through. I was like, this is kind of high. It's kind of concerning that she could do that. But then they were lowered to the ground. When they were lowered to the ground, she should have still had, like, a fuck ton of wind and stuff, like, on her.
Yeah, and especially, like, coming from going skydiving and stuff, there's no way you're getting out, standing casually, hanging out of the side of a plane.
There's no way
with
you're
one
jumping
hand,
from the pit
climbing,
to literally like
hanging
a
upside
wing.
down. Not happening.
Literally from the pit to a wing.
Yeah, and especially when you're going over the coast, you're that high up, it's nighttime, you're dropping 3 degrees every 1,000 feet. And if they're above the clouds,
for me also,
it's very, I mean, it's over the top and it's exaggerated, and that's the part that was hard to watch.
Yeah, and at the same time, I don't mind it because I like that. Like, I don't mind the B aspect of it and the
there's
cheesiness
gremlins.
and the concept of it just being so dramatic. But like, there's a part where she's trying to get the baby from outside the plane like that, and I'm like, bitch, that baby would have either 1, fallen, 2, been dead by now. Like, you think that baby's comfortably breathing up in the air like that?
Yeah, the wind strength would have been too powerful.
Well, think about when
and everything would have been shoom, right to the side, hitting the underside of the plane, the whole 9.
Think when we're on a regular airplane and there's a baby on there and the baby's just crying because the air pressure.
And they're like, because they're hanging it out the window and the wind's too strong, right? And like they're like, I'm like, dude, what are you doing with that baby out there? It can't handle that wind. And they bring it back in, and they're like, well, it's the strap was weak. That's all. Okay, maybe that doesn't happen.
No, but I'm saying in an airplane, like the regular times when you're in an airplane and there's a baby that's crying, it's because of the air pressure and they're uncomfortable and babies cry, whatever. You got this baby who's barely cried the whole movie, swinging around, doing flips, all up in the air, getting shot at by fucking airplanes, and the baby's just chill.
Somebody get that baby some chewing gum, that the ear's gonna be popping. That thing's gonna get a full blown ear infection by the end of that. Not to mention vertigo and all that.
First movie, not like a perfect film, and it's like the first hour, I mean, isn't a perfect thing. But it's interesting, and it was enough to grab me. And then the last 30 minutes kind of lost me. I was hoping for a little bit more gremlins. I was hoping for more violence with said gremlins, and less with the whole, like, Japanese plane scenario. We still don't know, like, where they even came from. Like, did they just exist? Because they were saying that there was rumors of it, and that's why they showed us the tape.
Yeah,
that they
I'm
watched.
assuming this is coming from the universe, like, of those types of movies, like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer, or Vampire Hunter, or was it Werewolf Hunter?
It's Vampire.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because, like, those types of movies, they just randomly will throw some weird paranormal shit into a historical setting. And that's what they did here. And it was fun. Like, when that stuff's happening and the gremlin and all that, it was really cool. But as soon as it mixes, like, her trying to do the baby rescue mission and that whole aspect, that's when it just goes way too over the top. Like, I'd rather the gremlins be the thing that can climb and jump and do all this weird shit on the side of the plane, because they're the mythological creature that you can't expect to just, like, fall frail to the power of the wind and
I
but
think
she's just like, at one point, okay, in the trailer, we all saw it. She falls out of the damn plane, and an explosion of another plane underneath of her blows her back up in through the bottom hole of the plane.
And she lands inside. Right when you think she's going to die.
I just... that part was a little ridiculous.
She got no burns on her, nothing. Dumb. So, like, if you can get over all of that, it's like a decent movie. I would say it's like a 6. I wouldn't say go spend all your coin on it, you know what I mean? But, like, if you want something dumb that just maybe makes you laugh and you maybe want to torrent it or find it somewhere else, feel free to do that. I think the concept was there. Like, the plot of her herself made sense. Like, the plot of faking this story to get on the plane, like, to get yourself a better life because she was in an abusive situation and she was in love with this other guy and all these things that made sense. Like, it was a creative way for them to do that. I think that made for a good plot. Yeah. I love the little gremlins. I didn't really care for the actual, like, war. I cared for the concept of it more than, like, what was happening at that time.
Yeah, the parts that were the best and the most fun to watch to me, aside from, like, the gremlin itself, was when they were in fights with the Japanese pilots. When that was happening and they were all back and forth and the shots were being fired and stuff, that was the only part of the obstacles that made more sense to me and were more enjoyable to watch.
It made more sense, but
than her getting blown through the sky into the plane.
What I liked more was the whole, like, her, getting stuck in the pit because the handle broke and she had to go over speaker with these guys and they figure out that she isn't who she says she is and they're going back and forth and they want to look into the bag. Like, that was more intriguing to me because I thought the whole movie was going to take place with just her in the pit and the guys in the ship because she was stuck. So I like that way more than everything else. But I mean, overall, it was good. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I would maybe watch it again because I like shitty B horror movies, but or B movies in general. So yeah, a 6 is fine for me. I wouldn't say it's the best thing ever, but I found things I enjoyed out of it.
I'm gonna throw it a half a notch higher. I'm gonna throw it at a 6.5.
Ooh, you went higher than me. That's rare.
Well, only because like the first half of the movie, I kind of like it. Just about all the way through, I'm like, this is like a solid 7.5, 8. You know, it's pretty enjoyable, and then it gets ridiculous
on like IMDb.
Really,
it's like low.
It's pretty enjoyable to watch just for like a fun movie. But like if you start like keeping as serious with it as you do in the first half as the second half, then it definitely loses you a little bit because it gets really over the top. Like they're like at like a 7 or an 8, it's going pretty good, and then they just like crank it to like 20 with the ridiculous stuff that starts happening, and it's pretty fun though overall. And there's some silly stuff at the end, like with her like fist fighting the gremlin at the end, and that was like kind of silly, and but it was cool. Definitely, I'm gonna 6.5. I'm gonna hold down on that.
If you're gonna watch anything at all, besides WandaVision, obviously, please go watch that new Superman and Lois show. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, you gotta watch that Superman Lois. That thing is really good.
Very cute.
Very, very, very good. And I'm really excited, obviously, to get into Falcon and Winter Soldier after this WandaVision is done. But WandaVision's been pretty good as well. We're going to get into another show. I think the next show we're going to be watching is, Into the Lake. We looked at that on, what was that on? That we were watching that through Netflix, I believe.
That was Netflix.
So we're going to check that one out. And we're probably going to watch another episode or two of Skate the Infinity.
Hell yeah. That's my show.
That one is a little bit
hard
fantastic for me to deal with.
Well, then you don't need to watch it. I'll watch it, and everybody else knows it's fantastic. It's a piece of art.
Whatever, man. I'll give it some shots, and we're going to try a couple more things that we'll be talking about. I think there's another movie or two that I want to check out, too, for next week. So we'll have some good stuff to dive into, and it'll be the finale for WandaVision, so that'll be great.
Hell yeah.
All right, let's close this out. You want to take the reins here?
Yeah, I'm uploading a picture on our Instagram right now of Joe speaking into the microphone. This was during our episode.
Whoa. They're going to have an idea of when we actually recorded this if they correspond with our post.
Hell yeah. Well, just so you know, we're on Instagram as a pod for the recently released. I do like little clips of our episodes on there. I post when we post new episodes that are live. I try to talk about like little conversations over there if you guys want to come say hi to us and suggest things that you would like us to watch and review on here. You can also find us on podcastfortherecently-released.com. If you go directly to our website, you can find all the ways to listen to us. Besides YouTube and our clips on Instagram, you can find us on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, like all that good stuff. And it's all directly through our website. You can also find ways to buy our merchandise if you want to check out our web stores. You can find information about me and Joe on there, as well as links to all of our social media. And we'll be back again next week with a new episode. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Peace out. See you next week.
Hey, goodbye.
Live the dream.
Thanks for listening to yet another episode of Podcast for the Recently Released. If you want to peep some of our older episodes, we've got a ton of them. Just check us out on podcastfortherecentlyreleased.com. We've got merch, older episodes, links for other ways to listen to us, and more. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Don't let your meatloaf. Stay safe out there, guys.